So thank you so much for inviting us, for sharing with, or getting the opportunity to share with all of you some of the insights of a really challenging, amazing project, which is called SmartSantander. I will not be selling you SmartSantander project as such. I want just to share with you some of the experiences, the challenges, and the good lessons that we have learned in the last 10 years, making the smart city paradigm a reality. We have been discussing, and I have been attending with a lot of interest, the talks and the discussion that we have had here before in terms of we are in a period of time in which things are running quite fast, in which it seems that we are in a revolutionary period or in a revolutionary one. So indeed, I don't care too much in that sense if we are in an evolutionary or revolutionary. I think that it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of the changing pace, and it's just a matter of how we are able to manage, let's say, the citizen expectations with the technology potential. So in terms of SmartSantander details, just let me share with you 3 key points. So Santander is a small city, 180,000 inhabitants, placed in the northern part of Spain, in the Atlantic Ocean, what is called the Cantabric Sea, next to the French border, 200 kilometers to the French border. That yesterday I realized that also the Bank of Santander is here placed in Karlsruhe, so it means that we are expanding beyond the technology also in the banking sector, which is nice. So we have, it was a city especially driven by the tourists. So as many places in Spain, many of you have been spending your time on holidays in Spain. And Santander is also, or was also, a good example on that. However, as also you might know, in 2008, in the southern European countries, we were under an in-depth crisis, economical crisis, and at that moment, at least from the research entities, and in particular from my university, we detected an opportunity in terms of bringing the business part coming from the European Commission, the huge amount of money that the European Commission puts for keeping Europe in the cutting edge positions, for using that investment for making technology as an enabler in changing the economical model of a city. And I think that was a quite pioneering view. At that moment, that was, I mean, the first step were carried out around 2008, 2009. And then we decided first from the research part to go ahead with such an idea. And of course, for putting in practice such an idea, it was needed to be in touch with the municipality. And that was a second, I would say, quite singular point. So it was not usual at that moment that we, much more technical-driven guys, we were in touch with the municipality for suggesting a quite technological project at that moment. So with these two ingredients, so in one side we have the research stakeholder, in the other side we have the municipality. We were missing one important player. An important player was the private companies. And of course, being Spain for us, also based on the experience that we had at the University of Cantabria, working with Telefónica, we suggested to Telefónica also to be part of this, what we call a virtuous triangle. So in which in the 3 vertices we have the public sector, the private sector, and in the private sector the telecom company, and in the public sector we have the city and the university. So that was the first steps, which I think were quite visionary at that moment, in 2008, 2009. So near 10 years ago. So we proposed a project, and the project started by using technology. So although we are hearing in a quite recurrent way that technology is not the key point, and I may accept that. It is a compulsory component for changing things. And I think that this is quite difficult to disagree on that. So at time being, technology is a key enabler. And based on that approach, what we suggested is to deploy a massive IoT infrastructure. This is what is marked here in this box. So to deploy a massive IoT technology that also in 2008, 2009, it was not mature at all. We discovered that. A massive IoT technology with a twofold purpose, with a twofold objective. The first one, to provide support to the research community in an open way for experimenting, testing new services, testing new technologies. That was the first purpose, because the project had a clear bias on the technology side. The second objective, and that was the one more linked to the city, was by the fact that we are deploying technology, and this technology, the best way to put in practice is to put in contact with the citizens. Let's deploy the technology in the city environment, in the city context. And that was the first enabler for the Smart Santander initiative. So deploying technology in the city context, first with for research purposes, but also for improving the city life. Improving the city life in different directions that later I will show you. The second important point, and that was, I think, also a pioneering vision from the former mayor that we had. The important point coming from the municipality was that, Luis, it's nice that we deploy technology, but we have to put this technology open for the citizen. So the citizen should have the perception that things are happening around them. And this is an important point. And the best way to create such approach was to provide and to deploy services. So once we had the technology deployed, the second important point, the second important pillar was to put services on the street for being used by the citizens. So we started with two quite popular applications. One was called Smart Santander Augmented Reality. And the second one, very, very interesting also, I will share with you later on, was called The Pace of the City. Of course, the number of assets in terms of services and applications has growth and is still growing. And now the third vertex, and I would say the hot one at time being, is what we call the co-creation fact, the co-creation aspect. So quite often people ask me how you see a smart city, and always I say a technology in which the processes have been improved, the services are much more sustainable, and this I think is a key point, and the citizen is really involved. Is really involved, not in a passive way, not just consuming the services, but also creating the services, conceiving the services. And this is what we call the co-creation component, the co-creation aspect, the co-creation view in setting up the smart city. Co-creating means many things, but also it has many implications. And one implication, and one key implication, is that we have to provide the tools for co-creating. So the city scale deployment that we achieve is really attractive. We are really enjoying. So one important issue that also we have learned is that the city is a system, is a quite complex engineering system which never stops. It's running and running during 24 hours per day, 30 days per month, 365 days per year. So the city never stops. And it means that always we are facing problems. So technology should work, but also we know that we are experiencing problems, and this is a quite quite explicit example. The city in which the technology also, once it doesn't work, then population, the citizens really start to be hungry, I would say. So we deploy technology in many places. We deploy technology in particular in private facades. So also you have to take into consideration the implications, the sociological implications, in the sense that people start to see that that some guys there are deploying technology in the facades. So what is happening here? So, and we wanted to create such status, so to create the awareness that things were happening around them. And I perfectly remember, what are you deploying here? This is a radar for controlling the car, whatever. No, no. We are going just to improve environmental conditions. Yeah. And then, but this was part of the, and it's part of the lesson, or the lessons. So we started to deploy technology according to the priorities. Once more, the city is very important, and the fact that we have, or that the cities have a clear commitment coming from the political guys is mandatory. So that commitment was translated in prioritizing which services should be deployed according to the needs of the citizens, but also according to the visions and to the views of the political drivers. We were also quite singular in the sense that we were not just deploying a static infrastructure like this one in the streets, in the parks. So it was quite interesting. So I mean, Santander in the past, it was a place, it was a quite rainy city. However, we are in a weather change, and later on that was not the case. So during the last years, water is really a scarce resource. So it was needed to make things in a little bit more efficient way. For example, irrigation. And then what we did from the very beginning also is to detect which was the humidity of the soil, which was the temperature, the wind speed, etc., etc. And so those are just few examples on how you can save resources in a quite efficient way, avoiding that just after raining, you see the parks and the irrigation systems running. What quite contradictory, huh? But just coming back to in what we were singular, also it was the fact that besides having fixed infrastructure deployed in the city, we deploy infrastructure also in the parking, in the mobile infrastructure, in the public mobile infrastructure. So all the buses in the city, but also the taxis, with all the implications in terms of, okay, what is going to happen? The municipality is going to follow me, how I perform my work every day. So all these concerns were raised some time ago already. But the good point was that we were able to monitor the city, not just downtown, but also, for example, in the periphery. And this is important. For example, in Santander, we have some levels, not emission levels, but ozone levels, which in summer go even, I tend to say, above the threshold. And ozone cannot be measured downtown because there is a cancellation effect with CO2 emissions. So the measurements that are taken downtown in terms of ozone are not quite accurate, so you need to go in the periphery. And this is what we did, and we created and we set up a map of ozone in Santander also coming in summer periods, not interfering with CO2 emissions and NO emissions. So just examples of how you can do things in a better way. But also this is a very nice example. So parking downtown, not underground parking, but in the streets. So downtown areas are crowded in Santander is crowded as in most of the cities worldwide. And the point is that one of the criticisms coming from the citizens is it's very difficult. It's quite tough for us to find a parking lot, a free parking lot where we can park. That was a criticism, a quite recurrent criticism coming from the citizens. So what we deploy is wireless infrastructure, in the sense that it's a quite seamless infrastructure from the technology perspective. However, it's quite sensible if we deploy the appropriate interfaces. And the appropriate interfaces were those panels. 10 panels were deployed in an area of around 2 square kilometers, which drive to the drivers to find a free lot in that crowded area. So why do we deploy the parkings? Because navigator is not allowed. You can imagine this is an area in which pedestrians are running, crossing the streets, etc. So the risk of an accident with a pedestrian might be increased if you allow that to do in the navigator. Indeed, it's not allowed, it's forbidden. And then what we deploy is those panels which guide the drivers to find a place. And it's not just important that, but also the information that we included there. So if you realize, although it's not very clear, we have two numbers here. One which indicates the number of free lots in that street. In that case, if you turn right, you will find, I don't know, one place there free. But what is more important is that here there is the information of the whole number of places that are available. So if you realize this is related to a concept of probability. So indeed, which is the probability that you might find a place? If the total number of available places or lots is 5. In terms of probability, it means that the probability is very low. So if you realize, we are giving them skills. They are learning new things. So they are learning how to interpret the information. So it means that they are improving the skills in interpreting the information. So this is part of the process of evolving. So in a step-by-step process. Traffic intensity. So also that was an important development that was carried out with another group in the university, with the civil engineers. So the idea is that in the past, most of the cities, they had the magnetic loops. So you know the magnetic loops which measure the traffic intensity in the different arterias of the city. However, in Santander, at least, there were no sensors at the entrance of the city, and the fact that we deployed those devices allow to the guys working with the algorithms for estimating traffic in different arterias of the city to predict in time windows of around 5-10 minutes, which might be the traffic in the next 10 minutes in those areas. So it means that instead of behaving in a reactive way, we are driving the citizens to behave in a predictive way. And this is also important in the way how the city is going to be managed. And later on also I have one slide to share with you. This is also an important result that we gather relying on the sensors, on the noise sensors deploy in different streets. So this is a real-time map. We are building maps, noise maps, based on the sensors that have been deployed in different areas of the city. There is a regulation which now makes compulsory to have such maps according to the different profiles of the city, suburban, urban, industrial areas. And this, for example, enables to regulate the traffic according to the noise intensity, to the noise levels. So we are not just managing the traffic based on traffic congestion metrics, which was the quite usual way to manage traffic, but also composing other additional metrics. And those metrics might be noise, but also environmental conditions. So this is also another way to behave and to drive and to manage the traffic in a predictive way. Instead of doing in a reactive way where the situation is already more or less congested, you can behave, you can advance to a conflict, in one way or another way. Just for ending the last 2 or 3 slides, this is one of the applications that I shared with you at the very beginning of my presentation, the participatory sensing. So you might remind that I say it was very important from the very beginning to consider the citizen involved in the film. So what we developed, it was an application called participatory sensing, which the main aim of such application was to measure what is happening in the city, but what is happening in the city from the city perspective, from the citizen perspective. So the idea is that the citizens, they provide reports, events happening around them. So they report that there is a problem with a bin here, there is a problem with traffic light there, and these reports are communicated in an automatic way to the municipality through this application, and the municipality opens an incident linked to such report, reported by the citizen, and then what the implications is that the municipality realized that instead of solving things in 7 weeks, they had to solve things in 2 weeks. And this is an important change also for the municipality. So it means that information and the fact that this information is shared in an open way with all the citizens around the city have many implications in terms of how the municipality has to readapt to this way of notifying and sharing information. This is the platform that now we are building. So this is the platform which is managing the city, and that we hope that will manage the city in a predictive way. So instead of working in a reactive way, so suddenly a problem is raised in that area in the city, and now I have to take actions and decisions for overcoming the problem, the idea is to follow the opposite approach. So based on the data that we are collecting from the different services, from the different urban services, and based on the data that we are collecting from the different assets, let's estimate what is going to happen in the next hour, in the next 2 hours, in the next days, etc., etc. And then to take predictive actions for avoiding issues, problems, surprises. Just for ending, so the third vertex was the co-creation. So how we should involve the citizen. It's not just enough to advertise, to publish all the actions that we are doing, to publish things in newspapers. Of course, it's not just enough to publish in scientific papers. We need to create the awareness around the citizen. So also, as part of a European initiative, a European project, we have built what we call the organic platform, a set of tools that allow, in a quite intuitive way, that any user with no skills, with no specific skills in ICT, they can think, they can design, they can develop, and they can assess. And this is important. So the citizen is approaching to the technology by providing to them, to the citizens, the technologies in a quite intuitive way for making easier to them. So this is also a commitment coming for us. It's a priority, and now the city is fully committed with such an approach. I invite all of you to visit the Organic City website, in which you will find all the assets, data assets, sensors, so any of you will be able to program a sensor, modifying the temperature, the pressure that you want to measure, etc., etc. So making the technology available for all of you. And last but not least, and this is my last slide, I think that I am running out of time, what I call the digital single market. I don't call that, I mean, it's the European Commission. So, but this is important. So it is very clear, it is very evident that things are changing in one way or another way. Evolutionary or revolutionary, I don't care. But things are changing. They have changed in the last 2,000 years. So, I mean, we are not surprised by that. But what is important is that we try to learn from the past. And the past, once computers started, etc., we have plenty of operating systems, plenty of open interfaces, plenty of programs, plenty of whatever platform. So the idea is that we try now to go in a much more efficient and sustainable way. And this is what is one of the objectives of this digital single market that we are also implementing in Santander, also jointly with 7 cities in Europe, which are part of another European initiative called Synchronizing the Cities, aiming at, first, to define a set of APIs, a set of tools common for all of us that will make much easier the adoption of digital technologies. But second point, I believe that data are or will be one of the key assets for being exploited. So also we need to adopt a set of data formats which are common, enabling the interoperability of those data and accelerating, speeding up the process of learning. So that's all from my side. So this is the way that we are following. So there is a rationale behind it, starting from the very beginning up to 2017. And I hope at least that we will continue on that pace, also with the support of all of you. Thank you so much.